Okay, so it's time to start because we have a very busy program. So welcome to everyone to this afternoon session, New Frontier in Space Science in Africa, that will be chaired by me. I'm Barbara Cavalazzi from the University of Bologna in Italy, and by my colleague Fulvio Franchi from the Botswana International University of Science and Technology from Botswana. So before I leave the floor to my colleagues to introduce the topic, I will take a few minutes to introduce you to the Europlanet 2024 research infrastructure and the related actions in Africa. Okay, so since its foundation in 2005, Europlanet had the ambition to reach out and engage with planetary science, planetary scientists across the globe. And as you can see from the slide, today Europlanet has a global role to connect the international planetary science community through the common aim of working together, exploring and better understanding the solar system and the exoplanet system beyond. In particularly in 2020, Europlanet was provided with a global collaboration and integration development task that is now considered a strategic priority of Europlanet 2024 research infrastructure. Our target is to strengthen and expand the European planetary science community by providing opportunity for collaborative and culturally agile engagement with the international community. So we aim to increase collaboration and engagement outside Europe, and particularly in Africa, in particular in planetary research, education, and supporting growth in planetary science community. And the second aim is to generate a global, integrated, and interconnected community and stimulate the creation of a new opportunity in a longer vision terms. Starting from this ambition, from 2020, Europlanet 2024 RI have created, as you can see in the slide, a strategic plan connected with the task for this global collaboration and development and integration development task, which basically represent the outcome of a dedicated effort of a number of people to define how to expand and intensify the new relationships, especially between Europlanet and African colleagues. The long-term goals are to create conditions for new scientific partnership between EU and non-EU countries, and especially in Africa, enhancing planetary science links between EU and Africa. This will underpin growth in the scientific community and will allow to free circulation of ideas. So you can see in the slide what are our mission and vision program. However, economical, political, and social commitments within global partnership that include Africans will only succeed through first, sustainable development, second, equality in the allocation of available resources, and third, in building of trust of both sides, the partner in this collaboration. And here we have the mission and the vision, and also you can see the main goals and objectives of the Europlanet 2024 research infrastructure. The goals, as you see, are 5, but we are strongly working and insisting in the goal 1, because the goal 1 will have as a task to fill the gap between intention and outcomes, because many times We make plan, we provide protocols, we suggest idea, but we have to move to action at some point. So the task for now is to connect individuals from widely diverse background and life and different life experience to build a truly inclusive planetary space science community. We have done already a lot of work starting from the ground. You can see here some images from school we organized, of course, before COVID in Africa with teachers, with the kids in the village in Africa, in many places. We are now organizing a number of workshops. The first 3 are already be done in Botswana. The second one was in Ethiopia. The third one in Morocco a few months ago. And these workshops are conceived as train in scientists with interest in planetary science, but also put them in touch in order to create network, so to make them to build sustainable their community. And after we have also extra more complex action like this one that Fulvio is going to talk in a while, in which for instance we organize as a Europlanet a small workshop with the representatives from Africa, and we collect their idea, their needs, and through them, in particular now Fulvio will present some project, we move to following steps, much more complex project. So for those that are interested in learn more about the strategic vision of Europlanet, I suggest to download from the website our strategic plan, and that is basically based on 3 core values that are sustainability, inclusiveness, and collaboration. Now, I wanted to show you the list of persons that at the moment are involved in these actions, but of course Europlanet is open to receive any kind of feedback from you, as well to collaborate with you, and the next step for now will be to continue to do what we are doing, and as well to create a Europlanet African hub that will help anyone want to build activities, actions in Africa. We can support in planetary science, of course. We can support in find partners, idea, and share comments, whatever is a suggestion. So with that, I'm done. I will be happy to share the microphone with Fulvio that will introduce his actions in Botswana.
In the meantime, if there are questions for Barbara, maybe we can...
Maybe the question we can collect at the end.
Okay.
Because the idea now is I give just a short introduction of what Europlanet is doing in Africa and will develop in the future. Fulvio will bring some example, kind of spin-off coming from these actions.
Which ones?
Yes. And after we will have few cases, and the last presentation will be about how to build capacity building, Erasmus actions in a technical way. So, Fulvio.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my presentation. Yeah, there it is. So it's a bit longer than expected because we have the last minute dropout in the presentations. Anyway, I'm going to bring some example of what we've done within Africa in terms of capacity building and networking. And well, most of the people connected online are part of this project, so for them it's going to be a bit of a repetition. But you know, it's important for us to make a point on how far we are with planetary space science in Africa. So there are several questions that we all have to ask ourselves when we talk about space science in Africa. And the first one is why space science? Amongst all the topics that could be covered and founded, why Africa? And well, we are here because we know that Africa is important in terms of space science. So what's going on in Africa today, and what is our role, both in terms of African academics and also as Europlanet community. Now, the reason why space science is important, especially in Africa, and every time we talk about space science in Africa, we have to make sure that we present it how relevant it is. It's because it answered to some of the sustainable development goals directly, like climate change and risk, by providing African countries with tools for climate change mitigation. In the last decade, there were infrastructures and investment in Africa because of space science. One and foremost is first and foremost the SKA or AVN and IREX and so on. So clearly, this works toward building a knowledge economy and promotion of a fourth industrial revolution in the continent. And clearly, and that's what most important, it can help creating jobs in areas where unconventional areas, let's say, like in aerospace and applied research. And of course, because it can inspire young scientists. You know, we heard the other day how important is to get new young people into scientific discipline in Europe, the more so in Africa. So I'm going to skip this one. So it's in 2016 when finally the African Union formalized a document that is called African Space Policy and Strategy, where for the first time it was asked to the member countries to start investing in building a community and space science in Africa. They also established an Africa Space Agency. I don't know how many people are aware of that. It's based in Egypt and technically started operation this year. But of course, what is important is that space science and technology, in order to grow in Africa, need to respond to specific needs like disaster management, Earth observation, a lot, communication, mining, security, and so on. Now, another interesting aspect that is always publicized a lot is the fourth industrial revolution. This slide is taken from a website where they present, you know, the four industrial revolution: the steam, the electricity, the computing, and the last one that should be the one we are living, about connectivity and connection. And they say we are all moving forward. And I added the question mark there because we are not all moving forward, you know. So space science and technology, creating local skills in development country can really achieve this inclusivity in terms of innovation also for many African countries. Now, this is a snapshot of what's, at least as far as I know. I'm sure my colleagues online, they might complain because I forgot some countries, but these are the countries that have a space agency or a space program, the red ones. And you see that out of the 44 countries, probably half of them have some work done in space science. And the blue one are SKA partners. So not just a program, but an infrastructure coming up in at least one discipline of space science. So what is the need? Now we sat down, as Barbara said, and we discussed with a lot of colleagues, and we highlight 4 points that are crucial in order to bring up space and space science and technology in Africa. So one point is that Africa doesn't have STEM related graduates, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. Only 25%, at least 3 years ago when I wrote this proposal. So space science might be a new way of inviting students to become scientists. There is a complete lack of coordination in the higher education system when it comes to planetary space science and technology program. Many countries, they have their own interests and their own program in collaboration with Chinese, Russian, Europeans, Americans, and so on. There is a complete lack of standardization of the programs offered. And as a result, there is very little internationalization of the institutions, of the partners, of the academics that normally don't manage to go beyond their personal network. And finally, there is an extreme need for stronger partnership within Africa. So what is called the South-South partnership. So with this in mind, we start the journey back in 2018 when we had the first meeting in Botswana organized by the Planetary Space Science Research Team. This meeting led to the participation in Europlanet 2024, and that became a trampoline for us, for our network. You see, I put the flags of all the countries so I don't have to repeat them, to come forward with two new bids. One is PAPS and the other one is Fast for Future, that were both successfully founded by the European Union. So the first meeting was in 2018, as I said, and you can see me, Barbara, Nigel Mason, Wolf Jeppard. I'm just mentioning those that, Gareth Davis, those that you see around here today. They were in Botswana with us. They were colleagues from Nigeria, Zambia, South Africa, Ethiopia, Botswana. And we start thinking about having more Africa into Europlanet. And that luckily happened because we became the second African partner to the research infrastructure that is hosting this meeting. So I can talk for hours about what we've done with Europlanet, but I want to show you one of the most interesting things we've done. This is an instrument that is on Perseverance rover as we speak, and it was tested in Botswana through Europlanet. So you can imagine our students, how excited they were when they were, you know, a bunch of engineers working on a Mars rover there in the desert in Botswana with us. So this is how powerful some of these field initiatives can be. So more and more students are asking to become involved, you know, especially when you show them the slide that, you know, these guys, they built MEDA, the weather station, and there is also the similar stuff on the European rover, but okay, that's another story. Yeah. So more and more of my students are getting closer to space science and technology. So we decided now we need the network. So we applied for money and we created the Pan-African Planetary Space Science Network, always coordinated by Botswana. This is our logo. And no, Africa is not made by cheese. Those are craters. It's supposed to be like Mars, but you know, our logo designer is not as good as I wanted. So what are the three main issues that you're trying to tackle? Again, desperate needs for graduates in STEM-related discipline. I thought to address the lack of coordination, the lack of standardization that I just mentioned in the previous slide. The partners are Botswana, Addis Ababa University, Nigeria, Witwatersrand in South Africa, Copperbelt in Zambia, and Barbara from University of Bologna. Very briefly, this project has 65 scholarships. 65 is a big number for Africa. And these are all postgraduate and early career mobility. So we are paying people to study. We are fully paying their degrees to study space science and technology. And in the past 2 years, we've seen a remarkable growth in the interest of African students in participating in our network. So our three pillars, I'm going very quickly because I have like 200 slides in this presentation and, you know, it's too hot. Our three pillars are astronomy and astrophysics, clearly not my field. Space science and technology, that's more my turf. And data science, because of big data coming through SKA, but also we've seen a lot of virtual access here at ERIM. So these are our three pillars in the project. So far, we have a number of students that are moving to Botswana, South Africa, Nigeria, and so on, from most of Africa. Well, not most of Africa. We hope we can grow, but there is Sudan, there is Cameroon, there is Rwanda, there is Ghana, students that are moving around the continent and meeting specialists and scientists in space science and technology, some of whom are connected online. So these are just three of our students, an Ethiopian in Nigeria, a Nigerian in Zambia, and a Zambian in Botswana, doing things that I can't even pronounce. So you guys read the slide, because these are like, you know, astrophysics and cosmology. But we have projects in Earth observation, geophysics and hydrogeology, someone in planetary science and astrobiology with me, astrophysics and active galactic nuclei. We really cover all discipline in space science. So what now? Okay, now the very important message is covered down there, but we're not happy with what we have. We want more, and we want an infrastructure, exactly like we have in Europe, Europlanet. We need to build an African research infrastructure in space. Someone yesterday mentioned that we should create Afroplanet, Barbara, but that sounds like a discotheque more than a research infrastructure. So, yeah. So, and we need an infrastructure because we need to consolidate the South-South partnership, empowering existing, excelling, and promising teams. Stop giving money to new people with new ideas. There is a lot of people like those highlighted in this map that have been receiving support for the past years, and all they need now is sustainability. So the only way we can have sustainability in Africa, it's if we build a research infrastructure. We tried, and we successfully submitted this bid for Erasmus Plus. It's called Focus on African Space Science and Technology for Future Development. Unfortunately, it was during COVID, so instead of a physical infrastructure, we opted for a virtual one, but still, it's not bad. It's a good start. We are 4 African partners that will create a virtual center of excellence for mobility, lectures, networking, projects, whatever you name it. We will do it. And the pillars are, again, planetary science, astronomy and astrophysics, space technology, this time we included, and citizen science, because in Africa it's extremely important to give room to citizen science. So this is the partnership. It's Nigeria, Zambia, Botswana, South Africa, plus Sweden and Italy with University of Bologna. We have a space agency as members, like the top right is NASDRA from Nigeria, and then there is SANSA. And Michael Koch will give us a talk later about SANSA, is the South African Space Agency. So the number of partners is limited by the call, but the network is much bigger than this. So very quickly again, few practical things we're gonna do. 4 minutes. I can talk for 40. Okay. No, it's fine. I'm done. So we put a lot of thought in this bid, and we decided to invest in satellite technology, education in satellite technology, because this is one of the things that African governments are investing to. So we believe that having students that know how to build a satellite will boost their employability. So we have a team from Bologna with Professor Paolo Tortora, a team of people from Stockholm that will come to join our experts in Africa and come up with a white paper on what you have to do to build a satellite in Africa, which is not the same that you have to do to build a satellite in Europe. I hope this one is clear. And that's the reason why many projects fail, is because, you know, skill is simply transferred, but there's no work really done in the field. So this is one of the many actions that we are doing with this project. The other one is increase the accessibility. And that's another big problem in many African countries, because a lot of students, they don't even think they can attend classes because of some personal reasons. So we want to create a virtual hub in order for them to get access to all our lectures, all our meetings, all our presentation, and also introduce some inclusive learning pathways, so remote learning for people living in rural regions. And last but not least, we have a strong, a lot of people working on gender balance in STEM in Africa, and with particular emphasis on space science. You read the numbers there. There is an extreme need for women, African women, to realize that space science and science in general, it's a potential career path for them. So we have a number of initiatives in order to promote space science as a future for women in Africa. So what's now? as I said, we need a research infrastructure because there is too much ongoing, and it's most of these countries, they are not even collaborating with each other. So we need to create a center of excellence. CHEST is something that we will create with our project, but it's going to be only virtual. So hopefully by the end of the project, we will find a way to make it a physical, a real center of excellence in planetary space science for Africa. And before 2025, we will launch the African Planetary Space Science Society, APS3 or something like that, together with the partners of the two projects I mentioned above. And I hope that the African Planetary Space Science Society will work in tight collaboration with Europlanet African Hub. Okay, there are many people I should thank for participating in this project. Barbara is here next to me, but there are like, I think in the two projects, there are more than hundreds African scientists involved. So that's a huge network that we built together. Anyway, thank you for listening to me. For some of you that listened to this presentation 5 or 6 times, so thank you for your patience.
Thank you for your... I suggest to leave the question at the end, so we can move to the next speaker, that is Prosperi.
Yes, I'm here. You can see my screen?
Yes.
All right. Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Prosperi Simpemba. I'm based at the Copperbelt University in Zambia. I'm currently the regional coordinator for the Southern African Regional Office of Astronomy for Development, which is a regional office of the Office of Astronomy for Development, which is a global office of the IAU. So I will talk about astronomy for development, basically highlighting the activities that are taking place on a global stage, but related to the Office of Astronomy for Development and our regional office, the Southern African Regional Office of Astronomy for Development. But just to give an introduction about the IAU and the OAD, then it has currently about 12,784 members globally, and I think more members are still joining. In 2011, the IAU thought of creating a global office that would handle matters related to astronomy for development, and they formed the Office of Astronomy for Development, which is hosted by South Station in Cape Town. Okay, so this is how the structure looks like. We have the IAU at the center, and it has 4 global offices. One of them is the Office of Astronomy for Development. The other office is the Office for Astronomy Outreach, which is based in Japan. And the other one is the Office of Astronomy for Education, which is hosted in Germany. And there's a virtual office, the Office for Young Astronomers. This one is charged with providing training for young astronomers. That's training advancement. The OAD is charged with astronomy aspects that relate to development, whereas the OAO is the one in charge with communication and outreach. The OAE is for education, and they concentrate more on the primary and secondary education, while the Office of Astronomy for Young Astronomers deals with tertiary education. Yeah, so when we talk about astronomy, actually it touches on a lot of things, nearly the entire well-being of a human being. We talk about technology and skills, issues to involve computers, optics, electronics, space satellites. It also touches on science and research, which covers issues to do with physics, chemistry, biology, mathematics. And it also has a cultural aspect, culture and society, things to do with ancient civilization, history, inspiration. We talk about careers and STEM. So astronomy actually touches on a number of things. And it was on this basis that the IAU formed the cardinal plans to foster development in all the different areas in public outreach, in education, and research. Okay, there's also a very good room for collaboration. So there's what is known as the OAD Gateway. And here I'm just presenting a flowchart to show how different scientists, astronomers can OAD. So once you land at the OAD, we can talk about small.
Prosperity, we lost you.
Yes. So we can have some question waiting that possibly Prosperity coming back to online. And so
To live.
come on. Sure. Okay.
Okay. I think my question is for Fulvio. I was wondering when you presented the projects that you have, whether there is any scope for participation of other actors, or whether what you presented is just for the current participants into the framework that you apply to.
Yeah, no, the presentation was about a project that were already funded by the European Union. So funds are earmarked for the members of the consortium, but we keep writing new proposals. Like 2 weeks ago, 2 partners from Zambia and Cameroon submitted other 2 proposals. So the idea here is to be like a landslide, you know. We started with 2 proposals, and then every partner is writing another proposal and inviting new people. So we are always looking for ideas. Well, ideas we have a lot, but we are always looking for new members of the partnership. Like in the new project, we have new partner from Nigeria. They drop me an email and say, "Hey, I want to be part of the network," and now they're founded. So we constantly receive requests of being part. That's actually what we want to do. We want to become a stakeholder, a major stakeholder in Africa. So if you have ideas and you want to participate, we can consider for the next call.
So there is scope for not only African participants, but also for European participants to.
Yeah, Barbara is in all projects for as Bologna, and then we have Stockholm, the KTH. I don't remember the exact name. And then we do have a partnership also with University of Milan. So there is always a component of the partnership that's coming from Europe.
And this is mainly about capacity building, as I understand, or is there any other?
So far is mainly capacity building and academic mobility. So we didn't submit any research proposal so far, because science is going to come next.
Because you have to build first the capacity over there.
Exactly. No, I mean, my colleagues and our teams, we're already doing science. But as I outlined in my presentation, I don't know if you came at the beginning, what is missing is coordination, networking, internationalization. So everybody's doing science in his own team. But what we're trying to do, we are trying to create something much bigger where, we can all benefit from experience within the continent.
And about this, sorry, can I monopolize the microphone?
I don't know. Wait, Barbara,
Since we have to fill the gap anyway.
Nobody's back. Just go ahead.
So this center for excellence that you were mentioning, where is going to be based?
That's a good question. We don't know. That's also one of the reasons why we decided to do it virtual. So the server is in Botswana. Right. We bought the server, it is in Botswana. For the virtual center. For the physical one, it's a conversation that is done at a much higher level with the African Union, with the African Space Agency, with the European Commission. And ideally, what we are pushing for is for sub-Saharan Africa, because it gives a better perspective of the entire project.
So definitely not Sudan, I believe.
Well, why not?
Okay. Sure.
So Fulvio, you mentioned that to create those links, like build all of that, mobility, it's quite important actually. And I was wondering if you were facing any issue regarding mobility, to allow mobility, maybe like visa stuff like that, or if the fact that there is this African space policy and strategy helps actually on this side.
Not at all. No, we are working around the clock with the team in Botswana to get visa and travel sorted. It's a bloody nightmare, because it's easier for an European to get mobility to Africa than for an African to get mobility within Africa. Like for a Nigerian to go to South Africa is very difficult. That's one of the reason why the European Commission is giving us money, is to try to find a way to improve the system. But well, it should come from the politicals, from the African Union, not from us. So it's very tough, very, very tough. My PhD student, she's connected now. She's coming from Ethiopia, and it took us 1.5 years to get her to Botswana.
Okay, that was a...
Yeah, I know, but you know, a staff member from Nigeria took 1 year to go to South Africa, and then we had to cancel the scholarship because he couldn't get a visa. So it's very, very difficult. We travel because we have Italian passport. So for us, it's super easy.
I think it's also, it probably is also the moment in the context in which we can push in this direction, just make in evidence that there are this problem. So if you want to invest in Africa to develop whatever you want to develop in space science or other field, there is this problem. So it's not that the existing problem should put you say, okay, no, let's don't do that. It's a big effort, like, you know, like you can see now, the internet or whatever, but this is the time probably that we have to push more to show that there are some problems, but they can be solved with professional people working around and, you know, giving credibility of what we do. And it's not easy. Will take 1 year to obtain a visa, but probably for the next generation project or students will be a little bit easier, probably. But is an issue.
Thank you.
So is because our guests are not back to so let's move to the speaker that is the next speaker. There is okay, Livia, go ahead.
Okay, I start by introduce myself first. I'm Livia Mercatelli from the University of Bologna, and I'm an administrative staff. So I'm not an expert, neither a researcher on your field of study. But I have supported Barbara and Fulvio through their path towards PAPSN first, and then Fast for Future. So the idea of my speech is to give you some details of what is behind the scenes, let's say, so which is the background, the funding background that made possible to have PAPSN first and then Fast for Future. And that's why I will talk about the Erasmus Plus program and other actions, specifically 3 actions funded by the European Union that are meant to support the capacities, the building of capacities in the Global South mainly. In collaboration, in cooperation, always with the European partners. So it's always about a partnership, and it's often about sustainability. So these actions that I will present to you, they do support capacity building on one side. They do support networks, connections. They do support researchers moving around the world within continents and between continents, but having always as a final goal the sustainability of the cooperation. So they do fund actions that are feasible and sustainable through the future, and they do also fund actions that can complement other initiatives. So we can think about, as Fulvio was mentioning before, we should think about PAPS and Fast for Future as actions that will help creating the context, the environment where researchers can feed and build their sciences. I work at the Innovation Division in the unit dealing with cooperation for development and capacity building, and so we mainly focus on actions of civic engagement and development in the Global South. First of all, a brief introduction on the context of the where Erasmus Plus program and the actions funding cooperation with Africa are set. They are set in this framework of Africa and European Union, African Union and European Union partnership that has increased a lot in the last 10 years, and we see now the main results. So, for example, in the new programming period of the European Union 2021-2027, there was an increasing importance of international dimension within the European Union funding. What's international dimension stay for? It refers to cooperation between the European Union and the extra EU countries. What the schemes, the funding schemes proposed by the European Union, what do they support among many other actions? But the 2 aspects that we will focus on today are that on one side they support the individual development, so the professional, the career development of individuals, of researchers or professors, of students. But this is always done through institutional cooperation. So the focus is on build the skills, upskills people, but through a bilateral or multilateral cooperation between institutions. And then on the other side, there are the institutional development and cooperation. So projects funding that focus on collaborative projects that will work more at the structural level of institutions. So individuals on one side and institutions on the other. When it comes to the individual development, it means that these funding schemes often funds mobility and individual fellowships. These fellowships can be for obtaining a degree or to have a short exchange, to visit a partner university for study or for research. When it's collaborative projects, the focus then it's more on strengthen the capacity of doing research together, improve the quality of education through curriculum development, through innovation of teaching and learning, and doing capacity building on the capacity of manage processes of improve governance, improve institutional policies on many topics, from the quality assurance to the internationalization of institution of universities through the research capacity and the inclusion of vulnerable groups into higher education. So let's move to the first financial instrument that I want to present, and it's the Erasmus Plus program. I will present, which is not, yes, it's this one. What's the Erasmus program? The Erasmus program is the European flagship program in the field of education, training, youth, and sport for the period 2021-2022. It's not about research, it's about education and training mainly. And as you see, the major share of the budget is allocated to higher education. The scope is to modernize and to have an impact on the quality and relevance of higher education institutions and system, to improve the internationalization of higher education and to support individual mobility. The international dimension that I was mentioning also before, it's about cooperating with third countries which are not associated to the program. And today the emphasis will be on the global south mainly. So the Western Balkan, the neighborhood East, Africa, of course, Asia and Latin America. There are some keywords when we have to talk about the international dimension of the Erasmus program, and these are the qualitative impact. So what the Erasmus program wants is to see a concrete impact on the higher education system, so a concrete improvement of the quality, of the effectiveness, but also of the relevance of higher education system for the societies of references. In fact, there is also a strong emphasis on society and on cooperation of university sector with non-academic sectors, business, industry, civil society organizations. There's such a big emphasis that also actors from these fields can actually be partners of the program, of the project funded. So it's not only universities that can access the funding and participate in the project, but also actors from the business sector. There's a strong focus on sub-Saharan Africa in the new programming. In fact, there has been a fourfold increase of the budget allocation to sub-Saharan Africa. The 26% of the budget of the international dimension goes to sub-Saharan Africa. So you see that the EU and AU partnership has played a role in this. There are two actions connected to the international dimension under the Erasmus Plus program, and this is one, it's about students and staff exchange, and it is called the International Credit Mobility. And the other one is the capacity building in higher education, which instead funds collaborative projects. What it is the International Credit Mobility about? It's about scholarships for individuals to spend a short mobility experience in a European higher education institution, or the other way around. So a European student, a European staff going to an African partner to spend a short mobility experience. The budget, the funding, it's the European institution applying for the funding, but it must be realized through a bilateral partnership. So the European university apply for funding to exchange students and staff with its African partner universities. The scholarship goes to students and to staff. You can see there the amount of the stipends and what they do cover. So normally there's a stipends covering the allowances of people participating in the mobility, and also there is also a support for a contribution for the travel expenses. Durations of the exchanges are short, as I was mentioning at the beginning. So it's not to get a degree at the end of the stay, but it's just for exchange period for short stays. And it is to be developed again through a bilateral partnership, a European university on one side and a third country university on the other side. Of course, this is an important instrument if you want to support your collaborations with your partners in the extra EU countries. So if you have let's say the Fast for Future project that Fulvio was introducing before, of course, it has its own objectives and its own goals, but an exchange of students through this kind of funding, through the International Credit Mobility Funding, can complement that action. Through the exchange of students or the staff for visiting periods. The second action is, in fact, the one represented by the Fast for Future project, and it is about the capacity building in higher education. In this case, the goal of the funding action is the modernization of higher education institutions and higher education systems in the Global South. So the focus is on the third country needs. It's not on the needs of the European Union institution. And they stress a lot on the progressive involvement in these actions of less experienced institutions. So they want this action to be very inclusive and very supportive to those institutions who lag behind in the development path of their policies or management process and so on. It's about collaborative projects, so they are carried out by partnerships. This partnership must involve at least 2 higher education institutions from each target country involved, and they must have at least 2 higher education institutions from the European Union. So it is a consortium which is made up by European Union universities and African countries or Asian countries or Latin American countries. The participation is open also to the world of work and civil society. So if it is relevant for the project, you can involve as a partner also an enterprise or an industry or any other non-academic actor. What type of activity these action funds? It can be curriculum development, it can be the design and development of new innovative modules or programs. It can be about the development of innovative traineeships scheme. It can focus on teaching and learning, on the development of transversal and global competencies, and there is also strong focus on the employability of students and of graduates. But there is also the possibility to work on the research field, not doing research because this action do not fund research itself, but it can support by funding projects that work on the on building or on improving the capacity of university to do research, to do a relevant research and innovative research in their country. And finally, it also funds projects that aim to improve the university governance or the administrative services for students and staff benefits. You can see there which is the amount of the budget that you can get. It ranges from small projects with a budget of 200,000 euro up to very ambitious projects that can get up to 1 million euro. Normally, the call opened between October and November, and the deadline is in February. So the next call of this action is expected to be published in October this year, and will close on mid-February normally. I have put, this was an example, but Fulvio already presented PAPSNA, which is a very good example. I show you briefly what was the work program budget under 2023, but just because I wanted to highlight how many money are budgeted, are planned for the sub-Saharan Africa. So where the objective, where the strategic interests of the European Union on one side, but also of the African Union on the other side is. And here you have some links and some actors you can refer to if you wanted to explore more about these funding opportunities for presenting your project this year. So, of course, the first suggestion is always to refer inside your home institution and find whether there is any support services in the administrative level that can support you in presenting a project proposal. Then it comes your partner institution. But there exist some actors at European level, which are called National Erasmus Plus Offices, the NEOs. NEOs are located primarily in the Western Balkans, in Eastern and Southern neighborhoods countries, and also in Central
5
Asia.
minutes.
Yeah.
5 minutes left.
Yeah, sure. But there are 23 new focal points recently nominated in sub-Saharan Africa. So they are actors that can be involved to get information. Last scheme, last opportunity is the Intra-Africa Academic Mobility Scheme. PAPSNA was the project presented by Fulvio before, is an example, and it is about, again, set up a consortium. So it's a partnership project that can promote collaboration among different institutions. Is a European and African partnership. So there is always a European university acting as technical partner to support the African consortium. And then it's about scholarship again. So it assigns scholarship, it awards scholarships, in this case, either to get a degree in an African country, or to have a short exchange period. Mobility is only within the African continents. There was a call that recently closed, but there will be a second call probably next year. What I wanted to outline is that the Intra-Africa scheme, starting from this call, has a strong focus on climate change, and they are also calling planetary science and space science to contribute to this. Not the last hint that I give you is that there exists also other kind of funding, not only at European level, but also at the level of bilateral cooperation between governments. So either through the scientific diplomacy or through development cooperation. So there are some countries that has some that has development cooperation agency. Norway is an example, Austria is another, and they do have a funding program funding North-South-South partnerships for project on capacity development in higher education and research. So they do have a program whose goal is to improve, develop, to modernize the environment where then research can be developed and done. Last slide. If you want to stay connected with your research community of reference, I suggest you to look at the ERASEX platform. It's a platform for researchers and it connects researchers among Europe, but they also have regional chapters, and they recently have opened a chapter in Africa, on Africa. Thank you.
Thank you, Livia. Hopefully next call there will be a lot of proposal coming from the Europlanet community. That is actually one of the reasons we organized this session. You know, if you want to be part of one of these projects and you need African partners, you talk to me and Barbara, but you know, European partners also have to do their part. Okay, so we have 1 minute for questions. Actually, do we have the people back online?
Yeah, Michael is back online. And,
okay.
Rob is ready. So we have 1 minute for
Okay.
questions, but
Mike, if you can get ready with your presentation. In the meantime, we open the floor for question for Livia.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, network failure on my side.
Can I ask a question? Okay, so maybe two quick questions. One is about the capacity building that you showed, Livia. There was a slide. You were talking about the fact that also non-academic institution can participate. I saw the name of associations. Could company participate as well, or is just non-for-profit organizations? That's my first question. And second question, if you could comment a bit about these numbers for proposal success for Africa, because the numbers were very small and I couldn't really see, or you could highlight what is focused on Africa particularly. Thanks.
Thank you for the questions. To the first question, no, it's not only civil society organizations, but also business and companies. So they can be partnered. They cannot be, they do not count for the minimum requirement to set up the partnership. So the partnership must be composed primarily by universities, which is where is the focus on. So, but once you have reached the minimum number of universities that you have to involve, you can include as a full partner, so accessing the budget, also non-academic actors that can be also company. Of course, their participation must be relevant to the action, and they should contribute in a way that is an added value. I don't know, if you are working on a curriculum development on space sciences, to have on board a space science agency can help you in better address the learning objectives of your new module, of the module you are that you want to develop. Or you can set up internships to be then carried out at the space agency. So they must contribute, but if they contribute to the action, they can also ask budget. On the table that I showed is not the success rates, but it's the number of projects and the amount of money they expected to fund.
Thank you, Livia.
I don't know whether I can show it again. No.
We need to move to Mike's presentation. Maybe if we have time, if we have time at the end, you can bring it back. So the next presenter is Michael Koch, which is a chief scientist at the South African National Space Agency. and is also one of the partner of the Fast for Future project that I introduced before. So Mike, the floor is yours. If you can share your screen, there you go. We can see it.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. And apologies for the problem. There was an area-wide network failure that suddenly happened at the wrong time. Right. So I'm going to briefly talk about the South African National Space Agency and some of our activities, and there'll be lots of lovely pictures. The SANSA is made up of 4 divisions, and I'll only really focus on one, and that's space science. The other divisions are space operations, Earth observing, and space engineering. We are distributed around Southern Africa, but of course, mostly in South Africa, where you see the map of South Africa, and where you see all the red dots is where we have major installations, things like ionosondes, magnetometers, and so on and so forth. The Space Science Division is located in the south where the green marker is, and that's called Hermanus. So we're almost on the southern tip of Africa. But we have activities in neighboring countries like Namibia and Botswana as well. The Space Agency was actually founded in the form of the Magnetic Observatory in 1932 at the University of Cape Town. So we have actually quite a long legacy going back more than 80 years, and that shows you a picture of the very original building. And then later it was moved to Hermanus because of electrical interference from the railway networks, and some of these pictures show you the historical buildings, some of which still exist. And we've been making magnetic observations from Hermanus since 1941. The science program, as we know it now, really started in earnest much later. This is an article from 1986, where magnetic observations were then made for science purposes, along with a whole range of other activities. So that legacy is a little bit shorter, but of course it's already been going now for 40 years almost. So we do a whole range of applications and research, geomagnetic research, mainly to do with magnetometers, ionospheric research to do with total electron content, scintillations, that type of thing, space plasmas, waves and instabilities. And our big activity at the moment is space weather, solar monitoring, space weather forecasting, and space weather storm impacts on technology is the area of most recent activity. We have a sort of large research platform that is located in and around South Africa and Southern Africa. We also have deployments in other neighboring African countries, for example, Zambia, and so on and so forth. And we also run, the picture shown right at the bottom, Africa's only Antarctic research station that has been operating since 1957. And South Africa sent its own actual teams down this continuously since 1961. So these pictures here, top right shows the Antarctic station, top left shows the Superdon radar. We're the only country in Africa that runs one of these radars, which is part of the Superdon International Consortium. Bottom right is a picture of an ionosonde. There's only 5 ionosondes in Africa. We run 4 of them in Southern Africa. And bottom left just shows the building for the main entrance of the space agency. We run a whole host of instrumentation. I won't go through the list right now. I mentioned the ionosondes, but we do a whole range of stuff which is associated with monitoring space weather. I might add, for example, at the bottom, there's the neutron monitor. We have the world's oldest continuous running neutron monitors, either in South Africa or in Antarctica. Both these instruments have run without interruption since 1957. So there's quite a legacy of research, some of it going back a long time. We're part of the South African National Antarctic Program. You can see the picture, the main picture to the left shows one of the antennas, the VLF antenna, and the station in the background, and some of the activities at the station, for example, high altitude ballooning. This is the Barrel project for the United States. And We contribute to the running of the instrumentation as well as to the teams that go down there. So, for example, we send 3 overwintering engineers every year. 2 of them go to Antarctica. 1 of them goes to Marion Island. There are 2 islands, Gough Island and Marion Island. We send 1 person to Marion every year, 2 people to the Antarctic every year. They receive training, they receive survival training, and they would typically spend a year, 14 months to 18 months, either in Antarctica or on one of the islands to run instrumentation that is important for our Space Weather Center, our Space Weather research, and for impact forecasting. We do sometimes send team volunteers or people down just for the takeover periods, which including the ship travel on the ship takes about 3 months. This picture also shows, I'll just go back one, shows the South African research vessel, the SA Gullis. This is number 2, which is berthed in Cape Town. And that ship takes the cruises to the islands and Antarctica, as well as carries instrumentation that is used for space science, as well as oceanography and marine biology at the same time. The radar that's special to us, we have a radar. The top left picture shows the map of Antarctica, and the yellow part shows the field of view of the radar. We cover most of the Antarctic continent with the radar. This scans the ionosphere, and it's part of a network. Bottom left shows the network of radars and their fields of view in the northern and southern hemisphere. So the SuperDAR network consists of about 35 radars and many countries participating. And as I said again, we're the only African country to participate. It also is a radar that's the most advanced version. It's FPGA digital based, and it was built in-house by ourselves. So we built it and run it and maintain it in Antarctica. Space weather, we have the African Regional Space Weather Forecasting Center. We currently employ 9 people in that center. The lady you can see here in the picture, she is the head of the center, and then there are 8 forecasters that work on a 24/7 basis, night shifts and day shifts, that do monitoring the sun. So locally, we use our own ground-based data, and then obviously the satellite data we're getting from ESA or NASA to produce these forecasts, which we do in a collaboration with the United States and the United Kingdom. So they're producing daily or multiple forecasts every day of what possible impacts there could be, for example, on civil aviation, radio communications, and power networks, all of which we know get affected, even though South Africa is not high latitude, it's sort of mid-latitude. Related to the Space Science Division and the research group which I head is the Applied Sciences Technology Services Division. They focus mainly on magnetometers and magnetometry and compasses. So they're doing things like maintenance and calibration of aircraft compasses, doing magnetic surveys, marine electric and magnetic signature management, magnetometer-based system integration into vehicles of some sort that aren't magnetic field-free, calibration of satellite orientation magnetometers, etc., etc. Top left, you see the Kelvin-Helmholtz system, which is built by ourselves, which is a walk-in facility, so you can generate magnetic fields or cancel the Earth's magnetic field as required. And then just briefly, science advancement. We have a science advancement center with 4 staff members and a van which drives around the country. And in our science advancement center, we get about 15,000 unique visitors every year to bring STEM to the locals, mainly school learners and children, but also adult visitors. And then the van does these tours of the country, taking space science, again, mainly to schools, especially in rural areas. Field sites, the activities are all over the place. Top left, you see a picture of myself at South Pole. This was a few years ago where we did an instrument installation. Top right is near Tromsø, Norway, in the far north, again with 2 of my postdoc and 1 of my students going to the IceCat facility in Norway. Bottom left is at Sutherland at the South African Astronomical Observatory, where we have a facility where we run optical equipment and do research. So we're sort of very diverse and all over the place. We've done ballooning experiments. This is mainly for atmospheric radiation work. That's top left. Marion Island, which I mentioned already, is shown on the top right. You can see the base station over there and the island in the background. And bottom right, you see one of the antennas that was being installed and maintained on the island. Top left, the South African Astronomical Observatory in Sutherland. And again, you see on the top right some of the activity. This is the Sprites research program, the building and the vehicle in the background and one of the telescopes. And we've also done research at the SKA facility in South Africa, which one of the previous speakers mentioned. Again, this was for Sprites research and lightning research. And then finally, I thought I'd just mention an example of one of the applications of space research we have done. And the question is, how do you do research that you've used on Aurora to help prevent wildfires? Wildfires are a huge problem, especially in Africa, not only because of the damage they cause and the economic losses, but also the enormous carbon dioxide footprint that a forest burning creates. You know, it takes up to 30 years for forests to grow and only 1 day to burn down. So the socio-economic cost is absolutely enormous. So we partnered with a company and a British university, and we did a study using MODIS satellite data. So this is looking at Earth observing data and burn scar analysis to see what the impact is of deploying cameras into the field to automatically detect wildfires. So this is a network of cameras. There are many of these cameras and also several of these networks. So this just shows a network of cameras that are protecting a commercial forest. And this is a network that is covering roughly 1 million hectares. And what we try to do is see, you know, what was the burn rate before and after the cameras were deployed.
Mike, 1 minute.
Yep. And here you can see very beautifully, the orange line shows the burn rate before cameras were installed. The blue line shows the burn rate after cameras were installed. And in all cases and in all locations, cameras had a huge impact in reducing the wildfires. And this is my last slide. We managed to show that in a 7-year period, billions of rands or billions of pounds or equivalent to euros was saved in terms of economic losses, but the savings in CO2 were absolutely enormous, even greater than the saving in the value of the forest burns. So that was a direct application of some of the things we'd learned in space science to something that was on the ground. And thank you very much.
So thank you, Mike, for your presentation. And now we are finished our time, I suppose. But there is probably frame for a few questions. For Livia, for instance, for Michael, for Prosper. Okay, was for the presentation, for Fulvio, or for me, for you, related to Europlanet actions. Any questions?
Question from home as well, from the virtual attendant.
You
So maybe the obvious question is, you know, if there is interest, and how can we participate into these actions, and do we contact you? Do we talk to you? Do we? What is the next step? Let's say if there is interest in future participation in these calls.
Are you talking about collaborating with the South African Space Agency, or are you talking about the call presented by Livia?
In general, the call presented by Livia, the project presented by you, and why not also, you know, possible collaboration with South Africa, of course.
What for SANSA, you need to talk to Michael and Martin. They're both from the South African National Space Agency. For the call, well, Livia gave you a lot of useful links, and you can check if there is something you're interested in, and then you should talk to your administration. Okay. But in your case, it's easy, but I'm speaking in general to everyone, and see what kind of administrative support you can get. And of course, if you need African partners, I mean, Livia's showed mostly calls that are good for African partnership. In case you need African partnership, then myself and Barbara, we are here in Europlanet. That's our job. So we are writing the African agenda. So she's writing it.
Actually, we will start soon. We will be open probably in the next few months. This Europlanet African Hub that will be, at least at the beginning, will be kind of collection of African partners that can be interested in collaborating with Europlanet community and or with Planetary science community. So we will just start to have this list of countries, some contacts, and we can interface with you, we'll face with you if you have a project that you want to start from capacity building or whatever. We can try to find some let's say partner. That means not just someone that you can go, in the list, in the Google and find, but someone that we are already in touch. We will, we will be kind of intermediate between you and this partner in terms of knowing, explain whatever we want to do in terms of space science. So we can create bridge. This is the first step that we will do probably in the next few months. I hope to have time to work on that and to have something ready. We can have something ready for September for the next goal. Yeah. After what already Fulvio said is the capacity building or whatever project related to Erasmus, to European Commission. Livia is a person working for, is the manager for this kind of project for University of Bologna. So it's like if you collaborate with us, like Fulvio, we will have support. But professionality, like Livia, you can find in other university or your institution, or you can if it's only you, you can potentially possibly find another European partner that is related to an university institution, so you can have extra feedback in this direction.
Barbara, maybe it's quite different. What about outreach and educational activities, maybe through Europlanet? We have to wait until the African Hub, or how does it work?
Okay, for the outreach, we potentially still have little bit of fund for sponsor a little bit of activities, because you know that Europlanet 2024 RI is going to be closed very soon. Okay, next, there still is 1 year to go, but the funds is already almost done because it was running for 3 years. But if you have some idea to develop some outreach activities and you have your own funds, you can contact me, you can contact Fulvio, and you can potentially go through this future Europlanet African Hub, and we will put you in touch with persons that are interested in developing outreach activities, not just send you to any, any funny place or whatever, but we have a connection, and there are a lot of interest in developing this kind of activity in school, at the university, in the village. There are a lot of moving in this direction.
On that, unfortunately, Prosperi was cut off, but he is the representative of the Office for Astronomy for Development, and that is actually one of the mandate is to do outreach. And unfortunately, we didn't see his presentation, but
you can be in touch with Prosperi.
Yeah, we can give you his contact.
And astronomy is very active in outreach in Africa. They've done in the past and still doing a lot of things. Europlanet is supporting in more wide directions, let's say astrophysics, astronomy, geology, microbiology, astrobiology, whatever is related to space science.
Thanks.
Okay. So if there are no many extra questions. We are happy with that. We would like to thank you from home. Thank you again for your participation. And have a nice afternoon. Bye. And also here, thank you for your patience and to be present.
Thank you, Prosperi.
Grazie. Bye.